Welcome to UniWhat? And this is the third lecture of this wonderful series on company law. Today, we will learn about various conflicts of interest in a company. Number 1. Conflict of interest between owners/managers in a company. In a company, the owners are the shareholders who own the stock of the business, and the managers are the people who are responsible for running the business on a day-to-day basis. In some cases, the owners and managers may be the same people, but in other cases, they may be different. A conflict of interest can arise when the interests of the owners and managers are not aligned, and one group acts in their own interests rather than in the interests of the business as a whole. For example, the managers may make decisions that are in their own best interests, such as awarding themselves excessive salaries or bonuses, rather than making decisions that are in the best interests of the shareholders. Similarly, the owners may take actions that are in their own best interests, such as selling their stock at the expense of the business, rather than acting in the best interests of the company. Conflicts of interest can be harmful to a company because they can lead to disputes and problems, and they can erode trust and undermine the ability of the business to achieve its goals. Therefore, it is important for companies to have systems in place to prevent and manage conflicts of interest, such as codes of ethics, disclosure policies, and independent oversight. Numero 2. Conflict of interest between majority shareholders and minority shareholders. In a company, the owners are the shareholders who own the stock of the business. The majority or controlling shareholders are those who own a majority of the stock, which gives them control over the decision-making of the business. The minority or non-controlling shareholders are those who own a minority of the stock, which means that they do not have as much influence over the decisions of the company. A conflict of interest can arise when the interests of the majority or controlling shareholders and the minority or non-controlling shareholders are not aligned. For example, the majority shareholders may make decisions that are in their own best interests, such as issuing dividends or buying back shares, rather than making decisions that are in the best interests of all the shareholders. This can lead to disputes and problems, and it can erode trust and undermine the ability of the business to achieve its goals. To prevent and manage conflicts of interest between majority and minority shareholders, companies can use various mechanisms, such as codes of ethics, disclosure policies, and independent oversight. Additionally, minority shareholders can protect their interests by organizing and communicating with each other, and by exercising their rights under the law, such as the right to vote on important decisions and the right to bring legal action if their rights are violated. And last but not least, conflict of interest between the firm itself. A conflict of interest can arise between a company and its stakeholders when the interests of the company and its stakeholders are not aligned. This can happen when the company focuses on maximizing shareholder value, which is known as the shareholder primacy approach, rather than considering the interests of all its stakeholders, such as employees, customers, suppliers, and the community. Under the shareholder primacy approach, the primary goal of the company is to maximize the value of its stock and the returns to its shareholders. This can lead to decisions and actions that are in the best interests of the shareholders, such as issuing dividends or buying back shares, rather than decisions and actions that are in the best interests of the other stakeholders. This can lead to conflicts and problems, such as mistreatment of employees, neglect of customers, or harm to the environment. In contrast, the stakeholder approach emphasizes the importance of considering the interests of all the stakeholders of the company, not just the shareholders. Under this approach, the company seeks to balance the interests of the shareholders with the interests of the other stakeholders, and it seeks to create value for all the stakeholders, not just the shareholders. This can lead to more sustainable and responsible business practices, and it can help to prevent and manage conflicts of interest. This can be seen as a big problem, so what are legal strategies that the law employs to address these problems? There are various legal strategies that the law employs to address conflicts of interest in the business context. Some of these strategies include the following. Disclosure. One way to address conflicts of interest is to require the disclosure of potential conflicts of interest. This can include disclosing the interests of the owners, managers, and other relevant parties, as well as disclosing any transactions or relationships that may give rise to a conflict of interest. This allows the other stakeholders of the company to be aware of potential conflicts and to make informed decisions. Fiduciary duties. In some cases, the law imposes fiduciary duties on owners, managers, and other parties who have a duty to act in the best interests of the company or its stakeholders. This means that they are required to put the interests of the company or the stakeholders ahead of their own interests, and they can be held accountable if they fail to fulfill their fiduciary duties. Corporate governance. The law also provides for various mechanisms to promote good corporate governance, which can help to prevent and manage conflicts of interest. This can include mechanisms such as codes of ethics, independent directors, and audit committees, which can help to ensure that the decisions of the company are made in the best interests of the company and its stakeholders. Overall, the law employs a range of strategies to address conflicts of interest in the business context, and these strategies can help to promote fair and responsible business practices. So, that's it for today, and in the next lecture, we will learn about corporate personality and the lifting of the corporate veil. Don't forget to subscribe. It's faster than the time taken to remove your pants. Ciao.